Why, hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is, of course, Gideon, and in this week's episode, we are going to cover a topic that many of you have asked for multiple times, and that is British culture. We are going to look at some weird and wonderful facts about British culture, the United Kingdom, visiting London, with the hope of you understanding us Brits a little bit more. So, you know the drill. You know what to expect. The idea of these podcasts is to help you practice your English listening skills. So listen carefully as we go through. Hopefully, you pick up some new vocabulary and expressions. Maybe you pick up some pronunciation, but just enjoy it. Grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and join me as we go through some interesting facts together. I've compiled a list of different facts and things about British culture, all of them very different. So you are going to enjoy this. But as always, if you are watching on YouTube, I give you a visual wave. How do you do? And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I give you an audible hello and an audible doffing of the hat. And as always, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for joining me as a random British guy every week as we discuss very random topics together. So if you are new here, if you're not new here, please, if you are just here, say hello in the comments. I would really love to know where you are watching from. Also, what do you do whilst you are watching this podcast? Are you relaxing? Are you driving? Or if you're driving, you should be listening. Are you cooking? Whatever you're doing, I'm really intrigued to know. So let me know in the comments, where are you watching from and what are you doing as you're watching or listening? So there we go. Just as a little side note, it's freezing cold in England at the moment. Absolutely freezing cold. In December, it really wasn't too bad. We had quite a warm month. Quite a mild month, which means, it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was nice. And I was having hopes that maybe that was it. Maybe we weren't going to get a cold winter. But alas, the cold has hit us. And boy, has it hit us hard. Depending where you're watching from, you're probably going to laugh at some of these figures. But last night or the night before, it hit -5. -5, which is what we say when we're talking about a temperature that is below zero. So -5. Very cold. My office didn't heat up all day. My toes were like ice blocks. But yeah, there's me complaining. But it's got very cold here in England, which is typical this time of year. I expected it, but I had hopes that maybe we were going to skip the cold weather, but we didn't. We are back to normality with a very cold January. But the days are getting longer now. The days are getting longer, which is nice. But that's enough of me nattering on. Let's get into the podcast. So we are going to look at, how many did I prepare? We are going to look at, 12 facts about British culture, the United Kingdom, and London. So I do hope you enjoy these. I enjoyed preparing it. Perhaps some of them you knew, some of them you don't know. But let's get into the first two, which are based around food. It would be rude for me to not talk about food in one of these options. Excuse me as I cough. Should have got water with me, but I didn't. So it would have been rude to me to not have mentioned food. So the first two facts about British culture are to do with food. Okay, the first one is we love to eat a full English breakfast. A full English breakfast. Now, breakfast is an important meal. At the moment, I'm doing what's called intermittent fasting, so I don't really eat until lunchtime. But breakfast is an important meal, isn't it? And generally, we have things like cereal, toast, beans on toast, maybe, often with a cup of tea. That's the general breakfast, I would say. Unless you're a health nut, you might have avocado on toast if you're feeling a bit fancy. But generally, we're looking at cereal, toast with some jam on it, cup of tea on the side. But if you're feeling fancy, if you're feeling a treat, particularly at weekends, us Brits want something larger. We want something that is going to sustain us, going to keep us going. And that is where a full English breakfast comes in, also known as a fry up. Now, as a disclaimer, this is not an healthy option. If you go for a full English fry up, you are not talking about a healthy option. But it's a luxury. It's a treat. What does a full English include? Well, generally, you'll have eggs, often fried eggs. I like mine runny, so you can dip the toast in and the yolk spreads out. I like that. You'll have bacon, sausages. Some people will have my nemesis or my enemy, which is mushrooms. I absolutely despise mushrooms, but that's your preference. If you want that, I would say you are wrong, but okay. Baked beans, preferably Heinz. The brand Heinz baked beans is the best. You might have hash browns and some toast on the side. Some people like black pudding. I'm not a fan of that at all. And it's a hearty meal. We're looking at 2 sausages, 2 rations of bacon, a lot of baked beans, 2 hash browns, maybe have some tomato on the side. This is a hearty meal. And when we talk about a meal being hearty, we're saying it's substantial. You know what I mean? It is full. And depending on your preference, sometimes with an English fry-up, we will add maybe tomato ketchup or the incredible thing that is called brown sauce. Now, I don't really know what brown sauce is made from, but I absolutely love it. Some people have a little dollop of brown sauce on the side. I like it all over with some salt and pepper. But yeah, an English fry-up is just a brilliant thing. And one of my favourite things to do, actually, is on a Saturday morning, if you're having a bit of a lazy morning, maybe you wake up about 9 o'clock. Near where I live, we've got a cafe just down the road. Me and my family will walk down to the cafe, get there for about 10, have a fry-up. You've got everybody in there having their cup of tea. It's loud. The windows are steaming with all the food. And it's just a really quintessentially British experience. And I absolutely love it. The noise, the clanking of the cutlery against the plates. People talking about their Friday night or moaning about work and the weather. I don't know. For me, there's something really heartwarming about it. And I absolutely love it. But if you go to a cafe, not a cafe, I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but when we talk about a cafe, we are not talking about a cafe. Cafe is a place where you might get a nice cake, pastry, or a cream tea. A cafe is where you get your fry up, also known perhaps as a greasy spoon. That is where you get your fry up. That's where you want to go. And you can go to a cafe, you can get scrambled eggs on toast. Nice. Scrambled eggs is where the eggs are kind of whisked together and then they come out all fluffy and nice. You can have that on toast. Poached eggs on toast. Beans on toast. There's plenty of other options. Yeah. A full English breakfast is a staple of British culture. And if you visit England, you must have one. Okay, point number 2, whilst talking about food, is the Sunday roast. Oh my goodness, I love a Sunday roast. If you know, you know. And what I mean by that is if you've had a proper Sunday roast, then you know it's great. Now, I do have a thing here. I do have a bit of a point that I want to talk about when it comes to a Sunday roast. You can go to a pub and have a good Sunday roast. I always recommend booking because pubs are busy on a Sunday. So if you are visiting England and would like a Sunday roast, make sure you book. And they do a good roast. But no roast is as good as a home-cooked roast dinner. And by home cooked, I mean that it's cooked at home. Your mum cooks it, grandma cooks it, your dad cooks it, or a member of family cooks it. No roast is as good as a home-cooked roast. And I really do stand by this. So if you want a proper English roast, everybody come round to my house and we'll have a proper English roast together. But what does a roast dinner include? Well, usually it's one of the following meats or all of them together. So you might have beef, chicken, pork, lamb, turkey. Sometimes turkey, that's not as popular. And you can choose one of these. My preference, I love lamb with a bit of mint sauce. But if you're a vegetarian, you can have it with a nut roast. That's quite popular. If you go to the pub, it's a little bit more expensive, but you can have a little bit of everything. And we eat this with roast potatoes. Roast potatoes are what make a Sunday roast. They're crispy on the outside and then soft on the inside, covered in gravy. We have vegetables, maybe carrots, peas, broccoli, pigs. I don't know. Every roast is different. Every family has different versions of their roast, but the staples are meat, vegetables, potatoes, and of course, a Yorkshire pudding. Yorkshire puddings are an absolute staple of a roast dinner. And Yorkshire pudding is basically that pastry which is made into what looks like a little cup. Do you know what I mean? It looks like a little cup. And funnily enough, Yorkshire puddings started after the war when everybody in England was under rations. Of course, there wasn't a lot of money and their food was rationed. So if you're going to cook a meal for your family, or maybe you're having some friends and family over for dinner, at that time, what they would do first is offer Yorkshire puddings made from pastry, kind of like a pancake mix. It was cheap and it would fill people up. It would fill your guest's stomach up, basically fill it with food. So then when it comes to the real meal, you wouldn't have to offer as much because they're full up on Yorkshire puddings. And this wasn't being stingy, which means this wasn't holding back. It was just because under rations, there wasn't a lot of money. So they'd offer Yorkshire pudding first and then a smaller portion of the meal. But of course, that tradition, that has stuck with us. And now Yorkshire puddings are part of a roast dinner. Even one thing you can do is a giant Yorkshire pudding the size of your plate, and then you fill that with the contents of the roast dinner. Amazing. But a key ingredient, I feel, for a decent roast dinner is all in the gravy. The gravy's got to be good. The gravy has to be right. Nice thick gravy that you pour over, especially on the potatoes. Just makes it perfect. But there you go. So the first two, we love a fry up in the morning, especially at a weekend, and we love a Sunday roast. And just a little thing about British culture is a Sunday roast is of course about the food, but in my eyes, which means in my opinion, the way I see it, it's also an opportunity for family and friends to get together. For example, if my mother cooks a roast dinner, the whole family's together. We have a big roast dinner at the dining table. We play games, we chat. Afterwards, we watch a film and generally all fall asleep because we've eaten too much food. And that is what it kind of brings about and represents. And that's what I love about a roast dinner, is the family time that often comes along with it. It's special, Okay, now, third fact about British culture. Now, you might have heard us say, put the kettle on. You might have heard an English person say that, put the kettle on. And the kettle is what boils water, where we make a cup of tea. But that's not the fact we're going to look at. The fact is that us Brits, we love to, put the kettle on in a crisis. We love to put the kettle on in a crisis. In a time where things are not going well. When the world seems to be against us. I'll give you an example. Let's imagine that something happens to you. I don't know, maybe you lose your job. Horrible things have happened. So you go to your friend and they can see you're sad. So they say, "Oh, mate, what's up?" So I've just lost my job. They might say, "Look, come on in. I'll put the kettle on." And basically what that means is we're going to have a cup of tea and we're going to talk about this. We're going to have a chat. Or maybe you've got someone that's upset you. You need to talk to your friend about it. You might say, "Look, put the kettle on. I need to talk to you." And then you have a cup of tea or a coffee and you talk about what is on your mind, what you need to complain about. And it's almost a comfort. It's hot. It warms you up. It makes you feel calm, and it really makes you feel a little bit more relaxed to talk about what's on your mind. And I think, just a cup of tea helps. A cup of tea sometimes just helps you to relax and unwind. But this is something we will often do. Perhaps when we need to make a big decision, we put the kettle on. When we're talking as a family, we put the kettle on. After work, moaning about our day, we put the kettle on. We've had a great day, we put the kettle on. Basically, we put the kettle on, but especially in a crisis. When there's something going on, put the kettle on just to clear our heads and to think about it. I wonder in the last minute how many times have I said put the kettle on. So if there's anything you take away from this podcast, it is that expression, put the kettle on, for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Fact number 4. Now, you might know this about Brits, but I wanted to include this in there, is that we really love a queue. A queue is a line that we stand in when we are waiting orderly, and we like to queue nicely. I would say that as Brits, we are proud of queuing. And you'll notice this, that if you, at the shops, the bus stop, a coffee shop, I know you've even gone to a theme park, which is where there are rides and attractions, the queues will be orderly. And it's something that we take pride in. We might not be happy about it, and most likely we will complain about it, because Brits do like to complain. We'll complain about the queue, but my goodness, we will not jump the queue. We respect the queue lines at all costs. And nothing will get in the way of that. And you just wait until somebody tries to skip that queue. There'll be a gentle groan, a gentle, people talking in the queue behind, maybe just saying, "Oh, that guy's skipping the queue." There'll be a general murmur. And there'll be one guy that goes, "Oi, mate, there's a queue here." And everyone will go, yeah, that's what I was thinking. "Oi, get to the back of the line." It always takes that one guy to speak up, to take the boldness to stand for the British queue, to take the courage to stand up for what we believe in as Brits, and that is a nice, orderly queue. So if you try to push in, which means join the queue at a point that you do not deserve, then you just wait. There will be a subtle groan, a subtle murmur, and then most likely "Oi, get to the back." But yeah, you've been warned. This could most likely happen. I've been partial to it a few times. I respect the queuing system. And I do get irrationally annoyed when somebody skips the queue without a valid reason. So yeah, if you come to England, United Kingdom, respect the queue system. It's something we are proud of. We don't like it. We don't like the fact that we have to wait, but my goodness, we will respect a queue. Okay, fact number 5, and this is one that I was thinking about. We love an underdog. What is an underdog? Well, an underdog is a person that in a competition who is most unlikely to win. And one thing I've realised about me, about Brits in general, is we like to support an underdog. For example, I like Formula One. And I've realised that I'm not a big fan of the teams at the top, like your Red Bulls, your Mercedes. I like the teams that aren't doing too well. We like an underdog. We like an underdog to succeed. And I think that's why shows like Britain's Got Talent or The X Factor are so popular, because we like to watch people that perhaps have come from nothing and use their talent to then become something. And we root for them, which means that we support them. And often this goes so far that we end up not supporting the team that is most likely going to win, even if we like them. We're going to support the underdog. For example, sometimes in the FA Cup, which is a football match, an important match, in one of the qualifiers, you will have a popular team like Manchester United play a League Two, smaller team. We root on the underdog because we want to see them win. We have that sympathy for people that are perhaps unlikely to win or a bit less advantaged. I don't know where that comes from. I really don't. But it is kind of like an inbuilt thing within us that we love to cheer on an underdog, which is somebody that is unlikely to win. Okay, fact number 6. We are interested in the weather at all times. Matter of fact, we are always interested in the weather. And this is because in England, it is as changeable as the time. The weather can change like that. The click of your fingers, the weather can change. For example, this morning it was quite grey and overcast. Now, from inside, it looks like a beautiful summer's day, but that's deceiving because I know when I step outside, it's absolutely freezing. And then later on, it's forecast to rain. But we like to talk about it. It's a great topic for conversation with anyone. In fact, I was down the shops, I think yesterday morning, getting some milk and bread, talking to a stranger. Yeah, funny weather at the moment, isn't it? Strange weather. The subject just doesn't seem to get boring. Maybe it's just me. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have a full 2-hour dialogue about the weather, but it's a great icebreaker with British people. What about this weather, eh? Beautiful day. Terrible day. Whatever the weather is, we're always willing to talk about it. So don't be afraid. It is true. We love talking about the weather, and particularly we love to complain about it and to use it as an excuse. Okay, fact number 7 is we are always saying sorry, even when we haven't done anything wrong. Sorry is just a word that we often use. For example, somebody might bump into us. They might knock into us. Our first reaction isn't, "What are you doing?" Our first reaction will be, "Oh, sorry." And a really interesting example of this is, let's imagine that we order some food. Let's imagine that we go to the cafe for our fry-up. But your food comes and you realise your sausages are cold. Your beans are cold. What is most common here is the first thing we will do is say, "Oh, we'll call maybe the waiter over or go up to the counter," which is the front desk of the cafe. And we'll start off by saying, "Sorry, my sausages are cold." Which is interesting because really we are not apologising for it because this is not our fault. But I've noticed that I do this. If I have to make a complaint or I have to raise a point with someone, often start it with, "Oh, sorry, but..." It's like we're almost sorry that we have to be an inconvenience, but this is the case. It's not our fault at all that our food or our coffee or our tea is cold, but we might start it off with sorry. So if you visit England or the United Kingdom, you will hear people say sorry all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean we are sorry, just a matter of speech. Okay, another fact that I wanted to bring to the attention of you lovely listeners is that the United Kingdom is made up of 4 countries. Now, I know that mostly everybody knows this, but I was talking to a couple of students the other day, and I realised that this can sometimes be a bit of a confusing area. So the United Kingdom is made up of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Okay? So the United Kingdom is made up of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Each part has developed government with slightly different laws, but also very different culture. So although we're going through some generalizations of culture in the United Kingdom, there are different aspects of this culture, of different cultures across the United Kingdom. There is no blanket culture. And also the accents vary so much. And sometimes the languages do too. In Wales, Welsh is spoken alongside English. So I think sometimes it's really important to remember, because when we just think of the United Kingdom, you might just think of one part. But remember that we have so much culture within this small island and across the Northern Ireland. There is so much culture, so much diverse culture. Like if you visit Scotland, it's just incredible. Wales, you've got the rolling hills and the interesting dialect and language and different parts of their traditions and culture. So it's a good point to remember that there is so much to see, to learn about in the United Kingdom, not just one particular place, whether that is England or Scotland. Take it all in, especially if you visit. Go visit everywhere, because there really is so much to see. And that leads me nicely on to point 9. We do not. I've lost my slipper. Sorry, my slipper's just gone flying off my foot. And my feet are cold. So yeah, point number 9. We don't all speak like the Queen. We don't all speak like the Queen. In fact, in the UK, we have over 50 accents, which change very noticeably every 25 miles. Now, that is not a long distance, but we have over 50 accents. And very few actually sound like the Queen. Now, the Queen speaks with a received pronunciation, also known as Queen's English, where everything is pronounced correctly, which is it's a beautiful pronunciation. But generally speaking, nobody across England really speaks like that. So I just thought it's important. Of course, I do video lessons on pronunciation, but pronunciation changes across the board of the United Kingdom. There's so many different amazing accents. Some might be more pleasant than others to you, but we all have different opinions. But there's over 50, and they change every 25 miles. And the theory is that the Queen, or when she was alive, now be the King, doesn't have an accent, as she is from the UK. And those that do have an accent come from elsewhere, or have been influenced by an accent from elsewhere. But that theory is extremely controversial. So, there is no right or wrong accent when it comes to the United Kingdom. Across Wales, Scotland, parts of England, there is no right accent. They're just all different. And there's nothing wrong with having a preference. You might have one that you particularly want to learn, and that's how you would like to focus your study in pronunciation. But I do not buy into the idea that one of these accents is correct. I don't buy it. Enjoy all of the accents and try listening to them all. Take it all in. We want to build this wide understanding of the English language. So point to think about there. 4 different countries in the United Kingdom, and also we don't all speak like the Queen. Okay, point number 10. The pub isn't about drinking too much. The pub isn't about drinking too much. And this was a fact that I wanted to share. That, as Brits, it is a massive understatement to say that Brits love to go to the pub. We do. We love to go to the pub, but I think often a misconception is that Brits go to the pub to drink too much. And this is simply not true. Okay, some might do that, but the pub is so much more than that. It's a place for community. It's a place to socialise. It's a place to have food with your family. It's a place to drink, to watch sport, to play pool, to play darts, to have a go at a pub quiz. And pubs are friendly places, or they should be friendly places. Some of them, be careful, you might want to avoid, but generally, they're friendly places. So if you don't like a pint of beer, if you don't like alcohol, don't worry about it. I know that some people that have visited England that aren't alcohol drinkers, they've almost been nervous going into a pub. But there's nothing wrong with having a soft drink. And a soft drink is a drink without alcohol. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But a pub isn't about drinking too much. It's about the culture, the noise, the atmosphere, the food, and just the hubbub of being in a good traditional British pub. But there is something to remember. The golden rule: always buy your round. By that, what I mean is that generally, if you go to the pub with your mates, you'll grab a round each. So if there's four of you, one time you buy the drinks. Another time, your mate buys the drinks. Sometimes you can do what's called a whip around, where you all put money in a pot and that's how much you spend. But generally, part of British culture is to buy a round. Yeah, you got to buy a round if you're in the pub. But there's nothing wrong if you just want to have a soft drink and take in the culture and the atmosphere. There is nothing wrong with that. Have a Coke. I wouldn't just ask for a glass of tap water. If you do that, at least buy something, maybe a packet of crisps to go with it. But pubs are a great place. It's not just about drinking too much. There you go. Okay. And the next point, that if you are visiting London, we have many, many free museums for you to go to. Okay. We have many free museums for you to visit. I'm going to list off a few. We have the British Museum, which is home to over 8 million objects spanning human history, from ancient Egyptian mummies to the Rosetta Stone. Amazing. We have the Natural History Museum. Explore dinosaurs, animals, plants, and the Earth's natural history. We have the Science Museum. Learn about everything from space exploration to robots and engineering. We have the Victoria and Albert Museum, where you can see decorative arts and design from around the world, from fashion and furniture to ceramics and jewelry. Often here it's shortened to the V&A Museum, and they do great exhibitions. I went to a Coco Chanel one. Absolutely fantastic. They've then got the National Gallery. Explore Western Europe arts from the 13th to the 19th centuries, where it's got pieces from Da Vinci, Van Gogh, and Turner. Have the National Portrait Gallery. Portraits of famous Britons from all walks of life, from royalty to politicians. Got the Wallace Collection. See French and European art from the 15th to the 19th century. The Horniman Museum and Gardens. I love this place. Explore anthropology, natural history, musical instruments, and the grounds of this museum are absolutely beautiful. And as a bonus, they have one of my favorite animals there, alpacas. And you can pet the alpacas and goats. So if that doesn't make you want to go, I don't know what will. After that, we have the Bank of England's museum. That one didn't interest me as much, but if that's your thing, go for it. You can learn about the history of money and banking in the UK. The only cool thing there is that you can see real gold bars. But yeah. Or the Museum of London. Brilliant museum. Discover the history of London from Roman times to present day. So there are literally dozens of free museums in London. And I would really, I would look up the exhibitions, look what's there, and choose the one that interests you and your family. If you've got kids, Natural History Museum and the Science Museum are just brilliant. My parents used to take me there. I've taken some of my younger family members there. Absolutely brilliant. But it's a great thing to do in London. But just as I wrote down a few points just to think about. Make sure you check opening times. Sometimes they can change depending what's on. Be prepared for crowds. Popular museums can get busy, so don't go there in a rush and rush through it. Go there being prepared just to walk slowly, deal with the crowds, especially during peak or busy times. Take advantage of free tours. Many museums offer free guided tours, which are brilliant. So take advantage of that. But also, many of these museums will ask for a little donation. It's not obligatory. So that means that you don't have to do it, but it's a nice idea. If you feel like you want to, you can donate. But yeah, I would really, honestly, if you do visit London, don't spend your whole trip in museums. I wouldn't anyway. Maybe you want to, but plenty of free museums. So if you want a nice free day, do that. Okay. And the last point that I wanted to bring out, and this one's just about British culture, and that is that the United Kingdom is a whole new world when the sun's out. A whole new world. Wait, that's from a Disney film. A whole new Aladdin. Is it Aladdin? A whole new world. Any Disney fans out there, let me know. Is that song in Aladdin? So yeah, it's a whole new world when the sun's out because generally speaking, we don't have a great deal of truly hot days. But when it does, we know how to make the most of them. You can smell barbecue upon barbecue. We're out and about. You hear music playing, sun cream being applied everywhere, and oh, it's just absolutely brilliant. The lawnmowers are going, the smell of grass, and it's a whole new place when the sun's out. I love a good sunny day in England. In fact, I can't think of anywhere I'd rather be than a nice sunny day in my garden with friends and family, music blaring, barbecue going. Oh, it's just brilliant. And everybody around is in a good mood. And I just love it. Um, yeah, and I think, you kind of get swept up or you get taken along in this just day of happiness and joy when the sun is out. So yeah, that's my last fact. That British culture, that the country changes when it's a truly hot day. All jobs, all tasks, all responsibilities kind of get thrown out the window and we just make the most of that hot day. So there you go. That is the end of our episode today. I hope you perhaps learned something new. If not, I just hope you enjoyed hearing me natter on about some of the things I like about British culture and the United Kingdom. Is there anything you know that I didn't touch on? Let me know in the comments or send me an email to gslenglish1@gmail.com. If you would like more daily lessons, you can visit my Patreon page. The link is in the bio on YouTube. And there I post daily English lessons to help you improve and just speak fluent, natural, and confident English. But as always, I truly do appreciate you watching this podcast, spending this time with me, and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.